Okay, so you can see what's going on. Don't sweat it if you got in a little bit late. It's okay. You can always double back and see what you missed. So you have to run out early or something like that. That's why I've done this, to stop all that nonsense about 5 minutes later, I've got to leave earlier, all that. It's there for you to see. Okay, now I want to just run through very quickly. Of course, obviously we've got today is the 7th, and this is our ground-based part. We've got some things that are due on the 7th, and I want to talk about them, pardon me, on the 8th. Typically, I'll have homework due on the 8th for everybody in all my classes, so I can work on it that day or that weekend. It just simplifies it for everybody. And then let's see here, you've got XLS 1 is due today. Then you had the financial ratios quiz. Now, XLS 2 is going to be due, maybe due today as well. Yeah, it's due tomorrow. And so I've worked through those and I've got these examples here, like these keys. These are things that we worked on and that you can use as the upload. The only way I need to, I guess, over the years, as I've tried to kind of develop this and move us to this model, I've been asked, okay, what's the deal about the workshops? I guess the only thing I can say is the thing about the workshops is consider it like practice, because what we will do in the hands-on portion of our exam, incorporating some of the things that we cover here. So there is some value in you doing that, and I think it's not a bad idea as we go through one of these cases, maybe to take some notes, or maybe to go back and get the transcript, which you can do, so that you get a feeling of what we did. Now, the last week when we introduced the class, we talked about some of what we're trying to get done here and why we're doing it. So I want to go back to the welcome module, and I want to take you down to a resource that I had out there for you, and I put together. The one we talked about was the analytical cube. You'll want to take a look at that, and what that diagram or graphic really shows us is that we have the capability in real time to see all the dimensions, or the most pertinent dimensions or aspects of transactions, of internal processes, customers, or other key stakeholders, what's going on with them, and then just the environment in general. So you're going to be required to work with and see more and more and more data and information. Those are just the rules. I didn't make them up. So what we try to do is to get you comfortable with the two main tools that we've used to do that. One's spreadsheets, and the other is a database. And once you understand that Microsoft Excel is kind of like riding a bike or learning how to drive, same with Access, when you encounter any other commercial products out there that you'll be using, you won't feel so lost, or you'll be able to get up to speed on it far quicker. One of the other things that we talked about this was this article from this gentleman, Anscombe, and what he basically said, and it's true, is that our ability to grab data, process it arithmetically or mathematically, if you will, has far outstripped our ability to properly display it. And we know that human beings, respond to images, okay? They respond to images. So one of the things that we'll do in here is we'll constantly talk about, okay, how do we take a piece of some software and some data and translate it into a picture or something that tells us a story or communicates something. And I have John Snow's, that link, that resource tells you about Snow, who was credited with really being the first person to say, we need to take data and put it out there in a visual fashion. And basically what he did was he took a map of London and he began to identify every home where they had a cholera outbreak. And as he did, they began to see there's an area that was a real epicenter for that to occur. And consequently, they went and they found that one of the water pumps there had cholera in it. And in those days in London, the way you had water, well, unless you were the royals or extremely rich, you didn't have indoor plumbing. You went to basically a gigantic water fountain. You opened the spout and got your water you needed. If you lived in some of the worst parts of London, it would be a good idea for you to be careful about the sidewalks and to always be mindful that there were people above you who might be disposing of, things from their household that you wouldn't want on you. So that article and what he accomplished there was to get us alerted to the fact that we need to be able to take data and put it in a way that people can understand it. And if you've been watching the weather and all that, you see that probably right now in the state of the art. Now, the other issue, and I didn't spend too much time with this, but I want you to take a look at it, is they talk about this PDF here on business data roles. Now, if you take a look at it carefully, you're going to see the kinds of skill sets that every employer is expecting you to have when you come to work for them. Okay, the old days where you just basically were management training and you had 5 or 10 years to kind of get up to speed about what's going on in the company or the industry, those are gone. If an employer figures out that you haven't mastered a lot of that in about 3 to 6 months, you probably won't advance. You probably need to find another job because you probably will not advance. People want you to see stuff, understand it, learn it faster than they ever have because we've hollowed out so many middle management positions. So there are some data roles there or tasks, and everyone who comes through our courses here has those skill sets. Now, it's both a science and an art, okay? And it will take you time and experience in a given industry to be able to look and see a set of data and go, oh, okay, I see what's happening. I understand what's happening. And that's part and parcel of that thing of going out and starting your career. So we try to give you a good foundation so you can get that done. Now, I want to walk us now over to the modules, okay? And I want to just very quickly kind of run us through or review what we've got going on. Okay? And this week, again, you've got the XLS1 is due, XLS2, and then the financial ratios quiz, and I had the resources for that quiz. And I don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on it, but one of the reasons that financial ratios are important is that they give us the ability to take a look at a company's data, its operating results, and to put it into perspective. Ratios clean up data, and they take away the issues like the distortions that are produced by size. If I have $1 billion company and I'm told to grow it by 10%, that means I've got to come up with $100 million in new sales or new revenues. If I have a $100 million company, it's 10 million. So you can see that you can get some real distortions with different sizes. So we use accounting ratios to get rid of those distortions so we can understand a company's financial position. And so the quiz there, and I have the resources that are available here for you to do that, so you can start to get a little bit of a leg up in terms of What do we mean when we talk about the current ratio? Why is it important? And we really have the following types of ratios when we evaluate a company's performance. One is its liquidity. Has it got money on hand to pay its bills and or to take advantage of opportunities that might emerge for it? If it doesn't have that cash on hand, it's got a real problem. Now, in the current ratio is also a thing known as cash or near cash, which is typically inventory. And you may or may not be able to sell off inventory or fixtures or things of that nature. It may not convert to the cash, won't probably about 95% of the time won't convert back to the cash value you paid for it. So there's a ratio called the quick ratio, and that is how much money have you got in the company checkbook and the company's short-term savings accounts, things that mature in 6 years, 1 year, etc. That gives you a way to understand if a company is taking the resources it's given and converting them into cash, or something that they could take cash and go buy a CD or whatever to invest it. If they're not doing that, there's a problem. Now, you can be too cash oriented, and you could try to expense of the company's long-term growth, because you have to be able to invest. If you have a company, you've got to reinvest in it. There's just no two single ways. The accounting ratios also walk us back to an essential equation that's important for us to understand, and that's the accounting equation. The accounting equation is very simple. It says assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. What do you mean? Every asset that a company has belongs to the people who've invested in it. That will be the people who are owners or have bought stock, or the partners, and the people who have lent that company money. They are the people who have created the assets. There's a moral dimension to that equation. And what it says is, no, the assets of the corporation are not there for the board and the managers to rate it and treat the company like an ATM. No, it's not there just to pay everybody a huge bonus. Those assets have been created because people have invested in them. And it's the same story for you. Many times I encounter students who will say, well, I'm paying for this. Let me stop you and let's talk about that for a moment. And maybe it will help you put your experience here or anywhere in college into perspective. Let's talk about that for a minute. When you go to school, okay, when we go to school, the people who have put money into this institution include not only you, but maybe parents, grandparents, etc. It also includes folks like me, a bona fide U.S. taxpayer, and I pay more than my fair share of taxes. You said, what's that got to do with it? Well, because I pay taxes, and a lot of people do, they provide guarantees for student loans that banks make so you can go to college. Or grants. There are a lot of people out there in the 1,800 somewhat Baptist churches who tithe every week. They're card-carrying tithing Baptists. And their money comes into a thing called the cooperative fund. And that money comes here to help pay you go to school. Provide things. If you look at this building, the name of this building, anybody know the name of this building? Bailey Business Center. The Bailey family gave the money for this building. If you walk around the rooms in this building, you'll see the names on the placards of the people who've made this possible for you. People have invested in you to give you an opportunity to become a business leader and to go out and reinvest what they've given you into society. Now, the people in my generation have failed you miserably because we forgot about that. We got mesmerized by the idea that the purpose of a company is to generate profits for shareholders or returns, and that's only part of it. If a company doesn't make the world better, if it doesn't meet a need, it should not exist. Companies aren't ATMs. They were never, ever originally designed to be those. They were designed to be a way for us to take resources and convert them into products and services that would pay and would provide ways for us to make the world a better place. That has to be and should be your number one passion. And so as you go through your experience here, you should always remind yourself every day, people sacrificed and gave for you to be here. So that may want to change attitudes about coming to class, how diligent you are in your studies, because you didn't pay your way on your own. Others have invested in you. I have that same thing. I have to consider the fact that other people have invested to make it possible for me to be here, that made it possible for me to go to school. And that's an important thing to understand. That should be something that you repeat to yourself every day so that you truly do have a grasp of what you're doing here. And if you're on an athletic scholarship, good. That's fantastic. Again, someone's invested in you and said, we'll provide you funds to go to school. Now look around the room today, and this room's pretty empty. And I'm wondering, where's everybody at? But I've learned a long time ago, this doesn't discourage me. You know why? I've managed and worked with people a long time. And I can tell you that the 20-80 rule works. About 20% of the people in any institution or organization do about 80% of the work. It's just how it is. There are going to be those people who will want to excel. There will be those people who are faithful to what they're supposed to do. And there will be those people who won't. This was a couple of years ago. We had a business faculty. We had a retreat. We had a corporate headhunter come in. And we asked, he said, what are the 2 top things that you're looking for in an employee? Here's what he said. I'd like somebody who shows up for work, and I'd like somebody who won't steal from me. That's a pretty low bar. Now, it's been interesting to me that over the years, when I get students sometimes from China, or I'll get students from Japan, or students from Eastern Europe, or other countries who understand the opportunity that college represents, they have a whole different attitude about all this. And then there's us. So I would say this, if you feel like that when you're going to college, here or anywhere, that you got up and there was a person at the door with a gun that said you must go to class today, find something else to do. You're too young to waste your time being anywhere you don't want to be. And that's really true. I'll be honest enough with you to tell you that the time in your life will go fast. And while we're glad to have you here, and while I want you to be here, I want people who are serious about being business leaders. And if you go through our program of study, we'll get you there. I can guarantee you that, because we do all the time. Those who just come for a piece of paper, there are a lot of great institutions out there, and maybe not so great, where they'll print you a degree before you leave. You can make a decision on what's important to you. We all have to. Fair enough? So in those ratios is buried a lot of stuff about companies, like the debt to asset ratios. You know, this will, one of these days, if you haven't already, when you go out and you buy a home, you will discover that as they walk you through all the paperwork, at the very end, you sign and they tell you how much that house really cost you. And you'll want to think, because 30 years of mortgage with interest, et cetera, becomes a lot of money. But as they climb through your finances, they'll look at, how much debt do you have? How much income do you make? Do you have savings, et cetera? Okay. Now, here's a quick little experiment, then we'll move on. How many of you think that having $250,000 a year to live on would be more than enough to have for retirement? How many of you believe that 250 grand a year for life would be more than enough for you to live on? You wouldn't have to work again.
Every year.
Every year, 250,000 bucks. Okay, now get your calculator there or get Excel, and I'm going to show you something that will make you think. It's called the formula for a perpetuity. A perpetuity is an annuity that you receive forever. Take the 250,000 and divide it by 1.7%. 1.7% is the average over the past 90 years for the safest investment you can have. Well, 1.7%. And that will tell you how big your nest egg needs to be. Anybody got it yet? Huh? 14,000? 250,000 divided by 1.7%. So you had 250,000 over 0.017.
No, I did not. I had to.
Yeah.
So it's like 705,000.
Better start saving now. Now, you don't have to worry, though, because Social Security will be there for you. I'm shocked that you don't believe the government will take care of you. They will.
Government is just.
You always want to wonder about how they will take care of you. Shock, kind of a thought. Yes.
I'm sorry. Going back, you said that one of the assignments is due today.
No, I apologize. It's due. Everything's due Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. All of them are Friday. I think at 5 o'clock. That's interesting, isn't it? Food for thought. Try your best when you leave school. Do everything you can before you leave. Don't owe any money. Okay? If you do get that student debt paid off, because it will become an albatross around your neck, then if you can become a saver, and if you can buy a home, be careful, because with a home right now, if you can, at your age, you probably would get money back every year because you'd be paying in interest, the mortgage interest deduction, unless they take that away. Rich people don't care about that. The rest of us do. You can ask your parents about the mortgage deduction on their house if they own a home and what they're paying on it. I guarantee you they want that left alone. Because often that tax return is what you get that funds you money to invest. And if you go to work for somebody and they have a savings plan or something of that nature, take advantage of it. Okay? Food for thought. Food for thought. Now, it's awful quiet. I see a lot of furrowed brows.
Did you say there was a resource for the financial ratios quiz?
Yeah, they're all listed there. I've got a resources for quizzes and exams right there. Yeah.
I was looking at that.
Mm-hmm.
For some of the locations it says Ditto. What's Ditto?
You mean DITTO? Ditto? Yeah, same as.
What?
Same as. DITTO means, yeah, same as.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Ditto.
I was just reading it wrong.
Ditto. Now there's a popular. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. My wrist. No wonder my wrist hurts. I wrote ditto. Or perhaps I copied and pasted it. You'll never know, will you? Yes, it means that. Not to be confused with Ditto is a popular Russian band fronted by Vladimir Putin. That's not true. That's a lie. Okay, let's go back to the modules and take a look real quickly about what we have going on. Now, again, I don't want to confuse it, but everything is due on Friday, and you've got that XLS1. I've got the key there for you, and that was also, now another file that was there we looked at was Athena Beauty, And that was one of those old cases that I'd worked through. And so I've got that. So if you upload it, you go in the files, you'll find it there. Let's look at this key for just a moment and talk about what we were doing with this. All right. Now I'm going to download it. And on my desktop, let me go down there for just a sec. I have the resources for all these cases. And what you'll find is the rationale for why we're doing each one of these. What we're going to do is just move up through things like formatting, cell placement, making sure we can do drag and drop, making sure we can do cell referencing, and then we'll start to use some functions, and it will get just progressively a little more complicated each time as we go along. And this one, that whistle cleaners, whistle cleaners is that case one. You'll find them there, and that's the one we take a look at where we had the last time we had contacted them, and we had to decide what when we took a look at those folks who we had contacted who were customers and said, okay, if we haven't contacted, we need to go ahead and contact them. And we did a little formatting and that type of business just to kind of get us going there. XLS2 is Athena Beauty, okay, and just a little bit more, but you'll recall, and I'll just go ahead and let me go into, let me go in over here to Canvas, and I'll go to the Files section, and we'll find Athena. Okay. And either one of these would, in fact, I even marked one for you, case 2. But let's open this up, download it, and we'll see for just a minute what I was talking about. Okay. Yeah. I'll download you. All right. I'll open this up for just a sec. Now, in this one, we looked at what we call the sales conversion process. And you'll recall we spent some time looking at this company, and they've got a marketing trends report. And what they've got on the far left-hand side is source. Where do these people come from? Because they're coming to their website. So they want to know where did they come from? It starts to give you some insights about them. How many of them were visitors? And how many of them who were visitors became shoppers? And then how many of those who were shoppers, okay, what was the percentage of visitors who became shoppers? And so we're watching that thing convert. And then the next step, do they become attempted buyers? And then we computed the percentage of those visitors who became attempted buyers. Follow me? You know, we talked about this. And so what we're looking is that conversion rate. Now, it tells us two things. One, it tells us something about how effective our site is. But it also gives us a benchmark to say, okay, how many, if I want a certain level of sales, how many people do I need to drive to my website? And you can see that if you go over to the people who are buyers. So for example, as I look here and you come down to row 24, I've got 2,300 people who visited my website. Out of those 2,300 people, how many became buyers? 129. So I look at that and I can look at that percentage. That's pretty easy. I can do the 123 or 129 over 2309, get the percentage. And so I would say, okay, if I need 500 buyers, does this imply that I've got to have 10,000 people visiting my site? And what does that mean that I've got to do in marketing or building web traffic? Or what does it mean in terms of where I get placed when somebody does a search on Google? Do I need to do some more work in what we call search engine optimization? Do I have to pay? Google collects a fee to place you in their top 150 or 100 result sets. But you also have to pass some real world tests, and that is you have to be what you say you are, and you have to generate some sales. So Google can go back and say, yeah, these people, their website, they have so many people who visit, and so and they pay us for that. And then Google also collects money from the advertisers who say, well, boy, if that many people are going there, I need to make sure my product's there. And Google says, happily, we'll get you linked in. So that product, Google AdSense, is a highly lucrative product for them. But this is also a very common kind of business problem as we see somebody we see somebody take the journey from I'm just visiting to I buy. Or you go out to a car dealership and you're looking for a car, and who appears usually? Car salesman who says, how may I help you? And then you begin to, maybe go through a thing, or you go, well, I'm just kind of looking. They hear that all the time. And they know when you say, well, I'm just kind of looking, they kind of say, you'll watch them, they'll get off. They're trained to get off, so many feet and kind of hover back there waiting for you to pounce the minute you look like you're about to want to drive a car. Then comes the deadly test drive. Have you bought a car or went with mom and dad to buy one? Okay. Am I lying? They walk you through the process. The last step of it is they trap you if you finance a vehicle, is they trap you in the finance room. And they try to apply you with soft drinks, coffee, or candy, or whatever they can give you. And then they have to get your credit and all this stuff and all your data. Why do they do that? Well, they have to perform what they call due diligence to make sure you can indeed buy the car. But they also do it to put in your mind a question about, well, can I really get the car? Do I really make enough money? Is my credit that really bad? It's called qualifying the buyer, but it's a negative process, so they kind of get you a little anxious. At that point, if they can do that, they're going to get the best deal they can get out of you. Well, it'll be this much interest a month, and here's the payments. And most people buy the payments. And so you have a $25,000 car, and you said, well, is there any way I can get the payments down to $190 a month? And they say, sure, we will get you a 96-month loan. Now, the car's designed at best to last 37 months, but hey, who's counting? Because you buy it at payments. House, same thing, any big ticket item, salespeople will push you to buy a payment as opposed to an asset. Get those payments down. And hey, let me question, if I pay something out in 96 months for another 8-year loan versus a 6-year, on which one of those will I pay the most interest on? An 8-year versus a 6-year loan? Yeah, because their money's held up longer. Sure. And so if they can get you in, credit card companies love it. If they can get you to pay the minimum payment, it could take you as much as I've seen estimates of, I don't know, as high as 20 years to pay off a balance of $5,000. It's a good idea to pay them. This whole spreadsheet here, this case is designed to see you, and this is for marketing people, so you can see folks go from learning about the product all the way over to those people who actually purchase it. And there are folks who get paid to design websites, to get hits, to get clicks, to see, and they can guide a person to that point where they click and they put their stuff in that cart and they buy it. So that case works us through that process. And we use some conditional formatting to try to put the numbers into perspective. And we created some bar charts there. We put the visitors in ascending order, and then we looked at the buyers, and we tried to find a pattern. Is there a pattern between the number of visitors who come from a website and the number of those people who actually buy something? In other words, if a whole bunch of people come from a certain website, are they buying our stuff? Or are they just coming in and doing clicks? So I might create an issue where I might say, I need to redesign my website because I'm getting all these visitors, but I'm getting nothing from it. Or if possible, if you warn them that you're going to put a cookie in their machine, then every time they're on the internet, you tell them about your latest sale. And you live through that all the time. So this case is meant to give us some things about designing that spreadsheet. Notice we put a nice little frame around it. We took the data, we put them into, we did some sorts. We did a sort where we took in terms of visitors. We used the conditional formatting to give us a sense of is there a pattern here? And then we also we used some percentage data and we highlighted those by putting a bar around them, and we put the totals down here. So we did some formatting pieces to make this useful and viable, because as people look at this, they're going to look at start at the left and move to the right and then drill down. That's how people in our culture tend to read. They'll look at the top of a page. They'll, of course, read. Things will go right to left. And then they'll maybe drill down for a table or something in italics or something in bold print or a heading or something that says, okay, here's how this stuff's organized. And so we use these techniques to organize the presentation of this data. Does that make sense? Now, I know if you're out there and you look at things, you will see some very innovative kinds of what people will call BISS or infographics. My belief is if it leaves you scratching your head going, what did they really tell me? That's probably not a good thing. The simpler, the better, about 95% of the time. So that was one of these you could have also uploaded. Then I have those keys there for you as well to upload. Okay, let's go back over to the module now. And of course, before we leave that Athena case, note something very important. We got some data, okay? The next question is information. You say, what are you talking about? Well, you'll hear people use the words data and information as if they're interchangeable, which they are not. Data is just data, it's stuff. Information is actionable data, something I can do with the data. For example, when I looked at the Athena case and I said, okay, I had 2,300 visitors to my site and what was it, 129 sales, then that gives me something to say, okay, if I increase the traffic to my site, will I increase the sales? Or is it that my site needs to be redesigned to get more sales? Or is it a combination of both of those things? And any of those three choices have a financial consequence with it and a managerial choice for you to make. Then it will be up to you to start to look at maybe to dive a little deeper into that, to look for any other patterns that are there. But we're always looking for patterns. Always. We are always looking for patterns. One of the most interesting things, this is going to sound a little ghoulish. I like this. I don't like, but I study airline disasters with great intensity because they are typically not an issue of the technology as much as a problem of the human beings understanding what they're seeing. That's why in most big airliners today, they have 4 people. They're a team of people. You got a pilot, co-pilot, you'll have a communications person, you'll have an engineer, but they're looking at all kinds of data. And if you ever go back and look, if you can go out and see that YouTube's got all kinds of videos out there that will show you what it looks like when you're taking off on one of those planes. And my dad flew a lot as business when I was a kid. I loved flying a little 2-seat plane, but that was really nothing. There's a few, maybe there wasn't even half a dozen gauges on that thing. And, I learned once, when you go in and hit a cloud bank, it's water. And so it's like riding a boat on a rough day in the lake. The only difference is there's maybe 2,000 feet between you and the ground, as opposed to water you can dive into. But nonetheless, I could see that the decisions they had to make at their altitude and the type of plane that he had was nothing compared to what you see in a modern airliner. And so the people who fly have to be extremely highly well trained. They have to be able to work in great teamwork. And one of the problems we find is not only people misinterpreting the data, but cultural issues. There was a flight, a Korean flight was leaving Rio de Janeiro. I think this is about 10, maybe 15 years ago. And as they were making their ascent, the co-captain noticed that they weren't ascending rapidly enough and they were going to hit the mountains. Okay? And this is back off, they heard it off of the recorders, and he said, we need to hit the gas. We're not going to make it. And in that culture, which is very patriarchal, you don't question orders. And the captain said, I'm the captain, I'll fly this plane as I need. So there's a cultural issue involved. A bunch of people got killed because somebody who was captain said, I'm captain. I don't care what that reading is telling you. Well, nonetheless, I've got a couple of things you can upload there. You can upload the Athena. You can upload this key. I don't care. It's fine, whatever works for you. What I have done is try to give you old case studies, as mentioned last time, that I've put together that you can see. I've got some annotation with it, etc. Or if you want to have one that comes right out of the book and follows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you've got those as well. Okay? Now, let's talk for just a minute about XLS key, XLS number 2, and that one's going to be due on Friday. Okay? And I'm going to download this. And we're going to be doing, what we're doing here is something a little bit unique. Now, as you notice, especially with the Athena case, I talked a lot about cell referencing. Pure absolute cell references, dollar signs in front of the column and the row. A relative would be a dollar sign in front of the column or a dollar sign in front of the row. And then a pure relative is no dollar signs within them, okay? That's so we can use cell referencing so we can take advantage of the drag and drop. But more importantly, so we can create what we would call a variable. And especially if we have an absolute cell reference, we create a variable that we can plug in, and then we've built an algorithm. But we also have another device in there, and that's in case number 2. And click on Data tab, and, pardon me, click on Formulas, excuse me. And you'll see if you come over to the Define Names. See that? This function in Excel, or you'll find it in any other spreadsheet, is our ability to, instead of referencing cells, to reference a word. Let's click on the Name Manager for just a minute and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you open it up, you're going to see there's a variable there named hours. You see it? Then it's got certain values that are displayed. And then we see, pardon me, the cell references, and then we see the scope. Does it apply to this whole workbook? Does it apply just to a tab or a worksheet inside the workbook? This is a way for us to declare a variable. Notice that they've declared a whole row or series of cells. Spreadsheets and databases are multi-layered. The spreadsheet is dual layered. It has a display area that is like E8, and then it has what's in the formula bar. That's kind of under the hood, the formula, or if you use the name manager. In Access or a database, you'll see a report or some kind of data set. Underneath that, you might see a query design, okay? Or you might, if it's a table, you might see how the table's put together, and that's important because it costs money to build tables. And then you might even see the code that's under it. But here we've gone ahead and declared these names. And we also then have wage, that's the second one. Okay? You with me? These are conveniences. Now, we can use those conveniences quite well. And here's what I can do. let's click on the payroll, and click on cell F13. Take a look. Is that more understandable than a couple of cell references? I see the variable. Does it make sense that the wages times the hours is what you get paid, the payroll? Yeah. So this way you can use that tool to think in terms of English or human speak as opposed to spreadsheet speak. And if I have those cells declared, it becomes just a simple process of me walking it over. And I'm good to go. Now the book walks you through a thing where they have you click on a cell and then come over here and click on this name box stuff. Skip it. Okay. Take a word from the wise, use the name manager. It's far easier. And they say, okay, I've set up the name manager. Well, the first thing I do is I define the name. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on define name. And I'm going to call that fun. And it gives me the cell reference. Okay. And I'm going to put a value in there. I'm going to put 10. Okay. And then I'm going to come down here to cell B15, and I'm going to define the name. And I'm going to call it, I don't know, days. And I'll click there. And then I'm going to put a value in it. And I'll put a value of 7. All right. Now I want to calculate how many days of fun am I going to have. And that's pretty simple. I will put equal, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put using formula, and I'm going to use days, and then I'll put my operator, and then pardon me, I put fun and then days, excuse me, and the spreadsheet gives me some immediate feedback, visual. See the red and the blue. It's telling me, okay, you're using these 2 cells. Now this is far easier to do than trying just to do cell referencing. Okay? This way you're dealing with English as opposed to computer speak or as opposed to Excel speak. And there it is. And you have 70 fun days. And you can multiply it, divide it, whatever operation you want to do. So a key principle in putting together a good spreadsheet is, when possible, go ahead and define a name. Otherwise, if I'm wanting to compute payroll, here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to put in equal F12, and since I want to stay in the row, I'll put a $sign in front of the 12, times F14, and so I'll have to F13, so I'll have to put a $sign in front of the 13 because I'm going to stay on that row, and I'm good. That's maybe more thinking than you want to do that day or that morning or that evening. So once you've defined the name for that cell, boom, you do the operations, you're good to go. So we talked about just cell referencing, and then we talked about here, we're talking about using the name manager. And once it's set up, you're good. You see that? These are just some navigational things that will help you as you're working through. But it's also, if you have to put a spreadsheet together and you have to figure out, okay, what variables am I going to plug in here? The name manager is a fantastic tool because it keeps it all straight for you. It's a great convenience. Okay? Over time, you will come to say thank you for pointing this out to me. I was drowning in $signs and columns and numbers. And you can easily do that as you work through spreadsheets. The other is that it's a good example of formatting and the ability for us to take the data that's stored inside a machine and format it however we want to see. If you took 1103 with us, you should know, I hope, that when you put in a date, you can put it in as just a pure number. So if I want to know the difference between two dates, I can do that. Let's see about that. I'm going to put in, let's see, put in, this is February 6th, 2019. Okay. Now, if you click over on the data, I think that's where we want to do the formatting or the view. Okay. I can take this and convert it to a number. So let's go over here. Yeah. And it's right now, it's in there as a general input, and I can change it to a short date or whatever, or I can change it to a number. And I'm just going to put it in as a number. Let's not be playing nice with me here. And let's just find some more specifics. Yeah. And I want to put it in that format. And should work for you. Or I just convert it to a number. Ah, that's weird. Why it's not doing that? You'll want to play with that. That's not weird. Okay. Let's try this. I'll put in. All right. And let's see. It's a general. It's a number format. I want to find the date format for this. So let's see. View. I just don't play with it enough to do it. Formulas up. No, that's the date and time. Well, maybe. No, I don't want to run the formula. Number. Let's go home and I want to see. It should do that for me on the command button up here. Well, I can put it into some short dates. I can theoretically, why it's not doing that for me, let's put this in as a number. And let's see. Ah, there we go. Pardon me. I need to do the date, and I can put it into one of those formats. I should be able to come down here and put it into a number. That's strange. I'm not able to do that. I don't get that. Well, I'll explore around a little bit, find out, and show you again. But I should be able to take this date and a date in the past or a date in the future and add them and create. Let's just see what we do this. Let's just do this. I'm going to put in February 18. Let's see if it just does it for us automatically. And I'll take the 18 off there. Those keyboarding things. And I'm going to get the difference here. I'm going to equal 4 minus, now let's see what we get. And I've got a value there because we don't have them formatted as numbers. Okay, I'll dig around a little bit and find out why it's not being nice with me. Anybody know? Want to tell me? Why it won't convert to a number? Because the dates are numbers. Well, I'll find out about that and show you again at some point. But again, it's an issue of using these name manager, and that was in this second one. And you can notice then we just we simplify what we have to do by using that tool. And again, it's over in the formulas, the name manager, and away we go. So if you've got a cell where you have, say, a high, let's say you have a cell that has a conditional statement in it that produces a number, you'd want to use the name manager as opposed to trying to copy all of that in. All right, so that's number 2, key number case number 2. And then you've got the information there for the quiz. Now, I want to move us ahead a little bit, excuse me, and let's take a look at, let's pop over to week number 2, okay? And let's see what we've got going on there. And now there are going to be some times where we're going to work ahead. And the reason I'm going to do that is because as we come down to the end of the course, I'm going to have some projects, finals, etc. And I've got some flex time built in for you to be able to do that. Okay? Now, there are a couple of I think I've got 3 examples there for you where we use if statements and conditional statements. And I want to show you the very first one. And again, these are for XLS3, which are due a week from tomorrow. Click on XLS Guardian Spring 2015. And we'll download it. And then I think I have 2 files in that. It's a zip file. All right. The first is going to be a Word file, and it's called Guardian Explain, and we'll look at that. And then here's Guardian Complete with the rolling payroll. Okay, this is a company that's doing a payroll, and I have some instructions, or I have an explanation in English. So let's grab that Word doc for just a sec. You with me? Okay, and let's open it up. Now this creates a payroll register, and I'll enable the editing. And I've got it here. And this is where we're going to compute FICA on a rolling payroll. Now, I would not expect you to produce this kind of thing. If you do, you can teach the course fresh out of the box. But it's a nice little tool. And over here, we walk through, I give you some cell references here. And FICA has some minimums and a percentage of how much can be taken out of your check. So it's a rolling cumulative amount as you do the payroll. Okay, and I've got some cell referencing there that tells you about that. Now I'm going to close it off for a minute, and I'll go back up, and let's find Guardian. And you find Guardian Complete. I'm going to open it up. I'll get it on my desktop. And I'll click yes, enable the editing, and let's take a look at this thing. Okay. Now, this is a well-designed spreadsheet. If you take a look, the first thing is you're going to see that we have an assumptions area. You see that? We have assumptions about all of the inputs that are going to go into somebody's payroll. Federal withholding, the state withholding, the FICA percent, the FICA income max. FICA is taken out 7.65%, and the maximum is on $94,200. So if you make $94,200, they're going to take 7.65% of that. If you make $1 million, they'll take 7.65% of that. Who you think will feel it more? The person who makes 94 grand a year, or a person who makes $1 million? Who's going to feel that tax bite more? The person making 94,000 or the person making $1 million? Why would you think that? Yeah, it's okay. It's a good answer. There are people in Washington who believe that if you make the $1 million and they take that 7%, well, that's but yet another Gucci bracelet I can't buy. Heart is broken. Now here's a family income, 2 people, wage earners, that make $94,000 between. They got 4 kids, 7.65%. Do they feel it? For sure. So we may want to rethink some of our tax policies. Okay. I'm not saying let's soak the rich. Don't go out here saying that. All I'm saying is maybe you need to think about putting money in people's hands. What do they do with that $5 million a year when they get it? Where do they put it? I don't know. Let's look at this. Now we got Medicare, okay? And Medicare has a percentage, and it has a deduction cap. They will take no more than $7,206.30. So Warren Buffett can sleep well at night saying, even though I'm a billionaire and I pay all my taxes, and he does, I know that the people at Medicare are only going to take 1.45% of my billions. Thank God I sleep better now. Now, he probably won't ever use Medicare and probably won't ever draw Social Security because he's so wealthy and he's a patriot. He pays as much tax as he can. But we have a percentage and a cap. So when you hear these debates about taxes, you always need to remember, you got to look at how much people make versus the bite and how much they'll feel it. There's a thing called marginal utility. Anybody here had an econ class? Marginal utility, remember that one? Where you go, get me the garlic now. Marginal utility is how much more do I get if I consume more of something? Many of you, I don't know, but you look like a pretty heathenistic crowd to me, are going to test that theorem. You're going to go somewhere some night, or there will be your compatriots who will go somewhere some night. I've heard this. I don't know this for sure. So I'm learning this from secondhand experience. And you'll have your first 3 vodkas, and you'll feel like, hey, I'm just like in that commercial. I'm beautiful. I'm cool. I'm up there in the skyscrapers. We're all dancing Kanye's here. At the 5th vodka, you'll start to sing a lot of sad country songs and think about the person that might have been and wonder what happened to Fido when I was 5. And Mom and Daddy said Fido went to the farm. My parents lied to me. They never admitted it, but I know. Blackie went to the farm, and there's some nice old people that take care of him. I wasn't sure. The marginal utility, see the buzz people get from that additional drink, or the buzz they get from additional use of meth or blow they use or whatever they put in their ingest with a needle. The additional, that marginal utility, there's a point where it stops, and all the subsequent use of it does you no good. You don't get now. Your buzz gets so higher, you're stopped. That's one way to think about it, isn't it? It's like pizza. Anybody love pizza? I could live on this stuff, but 12 slices, it's time to stop. Yes? Too much of a good thing. Old Aristotle, I think it was Aristotle, said the golden mean. Well, if we look here, we see also some more assumptions about the monthly group health insurance. They all pay that. And there's a thing called a counter, and that's for each month as we roll through this payroll. And then we see a profit sharing plan, 7.5% of what they make, and then the United Charity gets 2% out of them. Because the boss gives the United Charity, they all give what they want to or not. Okay, that's the way to do it. So that's the set of assumptions. Okay. Now let's look at the pay register, and down we come. And here it's nicely done. We see the pay register. We see their first name, their last name, their Social Security, their annual salary. Amanda Boucher is making $120 grand a year. She's living large. If you'd have told me that I would make $100,000 a year when I was your age, I'd have said, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. Make $100,000, you say, I'm middle class. I'm really middle class. Now pat myself on the back. You made it. Now let's look through here. Oh, here's Jordan. Woo, Jordan making 300 grand. That's not good. And then here we've got, here's James Jr. I bet that's James Jr. The owner, and he's making 420. There's Billy, he's making 425. James is making 560. Camille is making, man, they got the whole family working there, 340. And Suzanne making 210. These folks are not doing bad, making pretty good. Anybody know the median income family in Oklahoma? The median income, family income, the median, about $33,000 a year. Woo! You imagine having 2 or 3 kids making 30 grand a year and living on. That'd be tough. It's their fault. They don't work hard enough. They're bad people. 32 grand a year. Most of you leave here making 40, 50,000, maybe 60,000 a year. Thank your lucky stars. And then move onward and upward. There are all kinds of data that suggest money is not the source of happiness, but it will shield you through a lot of things. And we do know this, health and income are linked together. The more income people have per capita, the healthier they are. Think about that. So if your employer offers a good insurance program, grab it and run and be thankful they offer it. So let's walk through here. We've got their prior accumulated earnings. We're starting here in January, and we see how much they get each month, and we can see we've got the references. Okay? And as we move through, then we get the federal withholding, and notice as we start to walk through those, we'll start to see those cells above the FICA. Now, the FICA is a little bit different. You said it was E39, and we come down to the FICA table, and I've got all kinds of notations. Now, you will learn from experience to make sure if you've got something complicated like this, to make as many notations as you can using a comment or an insert text box. I've done that, and even if you see to the left there, I've got I walk through to make sure that I know that the payroll register for her is correct and the FICA is computed correctly. Because if you don't do your taxes correctly as a business and you submit them, you are in trouble. They've got to get it right. The employee is not the liable one. It's the company. So you can see I've got I walked through that and provide you that example there. The verbiage that's on the left, and then the verbiage over there, the formula that's in cell 29, E39. And let's click on E39. Let's see. Woo-wee. Oh, mercy. That's a whopper. This is using a nested statement, a nested conditional statement, excuse me. And it uses if and the minimum and the maximum functions. If both conditions are operable, here's the result. And then we apply that result to some minimum and some maximum, and we get our response. Okay. And I've got the Amanda Boucher example, so you can go month by month by month, and you'll see as she pays off her FICA obligation. And you'll see the others who make more money, they'll pay it off quicker. It only stands to reason because it's a percentage times their salary. This is a really well done spreadsheet. Everything in it. And even some notations on how we got the prior cumulative totals, etc. Now, I'm not going to expect you to produce something like this, and the chances are when you go out to work, if you're going to have somebody back in payroll who's already got a client like this. Probably, if they're using I doubt they're going to develop their own. Probably if they're using ADP or somebody like that, Quicken. If it's a large company, they'll probably use an ADP. So there will be someone back there, thank goodness, who's set all that up for you. Okay, the people that are geeks, or you think are geeks, the IT people, or if you have some friends who are computer science people, or if you have some friends here that are accounting people, make friends with them now. They can hurt or help you. And you want them to be able to explain to you in plain English, what is it, what happened? And they can explain all that to you. And if you're a good end user, you get and you absorb what we're trying to convey here, they'll recognize you as a somewhat intelligent species on this planet. Now, the most humbling experience I ever had in my entire life is I went summer after I finished my doctorate. I went up to Cambridge and I did a summer seminar program at MIT. MIT is full of smart people, really smart people. And it was interesting because as they spoke to me, it was as if I was either an insect or a very small child. Because they're really smart, incredibly smart human beings. And you know, it's funny. Everybody has a complaint about their life. And everybody has a sawhorse to get on now and then and they get mad. Okay? Mine is, why don't we beat Texas every year 56-0? I thought that's how the Lord intended it. But it doesn't happen. And you know what they were kind of, well, you know what was under their skin? Here they are, the smartest people in the world, the smartest people in the world. But guess who runs the world? These students across the way over at Harvard. And so anything that has to do with Harvard, they don't like. Because they're rich people who got a legacy entrance. Yeah. They're just not as smart as we are. And so it was interesting. So I thought, well, that's interesting. Their perspective, people don't care much for them. Oh, at that time, their undergraduate students barely could get through their program because they'd have industry come in and pluck them out as fast as they could whistle Dixie. Because they were doing, every student and undergraduate had to do a project, and they were doing some incredible kinds of things. The young man that I stayed with that I bunked with, he was working on developing high-speed cameras. And after about 5 minutes, he lost me on, here I had a PhD, and I'm going, but it was a good experience for me. One of the most interesting seminars that we had that summer, and this is the title of it, what will we do when the last robot in the last third world country has been created and there are no more jobs for people to make cars, sweep floors, clean toilets, or deliver food, or any other service occupation? That was mind-boggling. To think that eventually we're going to have robots doing all this stuff for us. How will that? And this will occur, it's occurring pretty rapidly. I don't think the transformation will take place till maybe your kids, you're my age, but you're going to be part of it. You're going to see this automatic car, these autonomous vehicles, on and on and on. The people in Japan are the leaders of this. They have a whole bunch of old people to take care of, and they don't have that many young people working. So somebody's got to make stuff and deliver stuff. Grandma. So go over and take a look at some of their robots. I've got a chat question here. Let me look at this for just a minute. Okay, people uploading it to Canvas, XLS2 is accepting submissions. Well, let's look at that. Let's see. And I'll go back and take a look at that real quickly. I'll go into the modules. And let's see what we got going on here. And we'll find it. Upload XLS1 here. And February 8th at 8 p.m., 5 p.m. I can go in and I'll click the edit. So people are having issues uploading. I'm not sure why.
She said XLS2.
XLS2.
One is also.
Well, I turned them in yesterday, and for 2, it was just too much information. Like I had to turn like X out of it and pull the page up again. For it to work.
Now, yeah, now, what you have to do now, we've talked, we may not have covered this. When you upload the work, first thing you want to do is download it to your desktop and save it on your desktop and rename it, and then and make sure it opens as that, and then you should be able just to submit it. I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to. Look at, so if you try to upload a file that it doesn't recognize, or it's a temporary file, and download it to your desktop and then back up, the system won't accept it because it is a security risk. But I have all the settings on here. File uploads, restrictions. Now, let's look over, and we'll go over to XLS2. You had said something about experience you had. What was it that happened?
It just seemed like there was too much information. Like the file was too big. So I just exited the page, pulled it back up, and it worked.
Okay. I'm not sure what was going on there. It may have been, I don't think I haven't put any limits on the files, but file sizes. Let's look at this is 1. Let's look at 2 real quickly. And I'll go into edit mode and we'll see what's going on. So I'm a bit of a loss of why people are having trouble. But what you do have to do, those of you who are out there and those of you who are here, you will need to take the file, download it into your desktop so that it's downloaded to your machine, okay? You want to rename it and save it with that new name on your desktop and then upload it. Now, you said when you uploaded it, it said it was too much information.
I didn't say it, but
Or-
it was dialed like it was too much information.
Okay, that may have been something with the server here that was a problem. But otherwise, you've got to get it down into your desktop, into a native environment that is a different, into a machine. If you just try to upload a temporary file. So when I open up these files here, unless I take them and save them down and download them to my desktop, you're looking at a temporary file. So if I work on that file and I download it, save it, I'm going to have trouble because it's viewed as a security risk. Now I'll see if, let me go back here. Yeah. So, anybody else have any problems here uploading them? Mm-hmm. It's not accepting it. Okay. Okay. Got a file upload. Okay, shoot me an email and do this, please. Try and upload it and give me a print screen so I can get a hold of the people over at IT and find out what the deal is, okay? All right, folks. I think we'll call it a day. And we'll see you next week unless you got some questions. Anybody? All right.